Depression is a signal. Anxiety is a signal. Bipolar disorder is a signal. Schizophrenia is a signal. It is telling you that something is not going right. Our current mental health model implies a philosophy of being, which states that if you feel anything other than comfort, that there is something wrong with you. There's no evidence for the chemical imbalance theory of depression. About 400,000 people in our country were disabled from mental illness. As of 3 years ago, the census has found that there's 12 million people disabled by mental illness. It's not working. There's no animal in the wild that we have observed has mental disorders, but they acquire them in zoos. And so birds will begin to rip out their own feathers. Elephants will begin to grind their tusks against stone. Some chimps and some bonobos will isolate themselves from the rest of the troop and just go stare off at the wall and will exhibit behaviors of depression. Orcas' fins will start to dip over. And this is a reflection of what is happening to us. We have not evolved to be inside of cages, and we live inside of cages. And when you look at social animals that are put inside of cages, they exhibit mental disorders. And one of the things that I try to explain to people is it is normal and a part of the human condition to experience what we call depression. It is a part of the human experience to experience what we call anxiety. It is even normal for some people to experience what we call schizophrenia. Like, a really interesting thing to connect to is in indigenous cultures, the people that experience the symptoms that we call schizophrenia, they were the ones that became shamans. That the culture would actually look for children that were extra sensitive, that would act weird, and then we'll put them through initiation rituals that would then make them some of the most prestigious characters in the tribe. The research on psychedelics as it applies to depression that has been coming out in the last 10 years is some of the most remarkable research that has been done in mental health. A study actually just came out about 3 or 4 weeks ago that was funded by Tim Ferriss. And what they found was that psilocybin-assisted psychotherapy is 4 times more effective at relieving symptoms of depression than our best current antidepressants. Mm-hmm. And that these effects last months to a year after the experience. And what they find is that the correlation between the depth of the feeling of transcendence of the initial experience and the healing that it has on depression is highly correlated. And what that is a reflection of is not something that's happening chemically, because it's not it's whatever the chemical effect is not continuing to happen a month later or 6 months later or a year later. It is the experience of the mystical, of the transcendent. And it's why there has been religion in every single culture that has ever existed. It's because it is a fundamental need of the human psyche to feel connected to the transcendent. And I think that teaching people what their biological requirements are, teaching people how to connect and function and create a tribe, teaching people how to tell beautiful stories that give them hope, and then teaching people techniques to help them connect to the transcendent. Try to be depressed. Try to be anxious. Depression, the feeling of depression, is your nervous system telling you something in your life needs to die. Anxiety is telling you that there's something in you that needs to be stronger. Bipolar disorder is almost always the function of you have a call coming from inside of you to do something big in the world. And that if you deny it, that feeling will start to haunt you. And then you'll have these big swings between inspiration and this feeling of hopelessness. One of my dreams is to rewrite a new version of the DSM. And instead of it being disorders, that all of it is the whisper inside of you trying to bring you to the life that you are meant to live. And kind of the core idea behind everything that I do is this idea of the daemon. And the daemon comes from Greek mythology, but the idea is that every single soul comes into the world with a sacred task to complete. And your daemon remembers what your sacred task is. And your daemon, if ignored, will feel like a demon. And if you are not listening to that call inside of you, it will haunt you. But it's not because you're broken. It's because you're not living your call. And the metaphor that Carl Jung used, that many people use, is that the energy inside of you that knows what you could be is the same energy inside of an acorn that knows it's meant to be an oak tree. And that the daemon is trying to break the seed. It's trying to destroy the shell of your ordinary life, of the life that you've lived ignoring the call to become who you could be. And that our current mental health structure implies that the seed should not be broken. And so we take things that numb the process of the breaking of the shell. But that's impeding you from becoming what you are being asked to be. And that the call is to actually allow yourself to transform. And that's why Carl Jung first discovered and really propagated, and then Joseph Campbell made famous, the story of the hero's journey. The hero's journey is the archetypical story for every human that teaches you essentially how to break out of the seed and to become who you are meant to be. And that until you do, until you say yes to your hero's journey, you will experience what we call mental disorders. But it's not because you are broken. It's because you are an oak tree trying to stay an acorn. What in my life am I ignoring that I know I need to face and do something about? And again, if you're genuine, you are going to have a list within a minute. And all of those are things that your daemon is calling you to face. That if you're not facing, it's haunting you through chronic illness or a mental disorder. And it's not quote unquote your fault, but it is your responsibility. And you have the power to heal these things by facing these things. If you learn how to listen to your intuition, if you learn how to follow what you admire and what inspires you, and then you answer the call of that whisper by doing whatever your dharma is or your creative work, like, I believe that it makes you almost invincible too. It's not that you won't experience what we call mental disorders or chronic illnesses, but that you'll know how to respond to it in a way where it will go away until you get off course again. Like, the thing to connect to is you're doing a dance. Your life is this dance. And whenever you get too off rhythm, the way that your body intelligence speaks to you is through these symptoms. But it's to bring you back into rhythm. And instead of numbing the message and continuing to go further and further out of rhythm, whenever you experience something like depression, it's episodic. It's for a short time because you will respond to it in a way where it brings you back into rhythm and you don't have the symptom anymore. And it changes the philosophy of what it means to be a human. You are not meant to not feel these things. You are meant to feel these things when you are off balance. And that if you learn how to respond to them, they bring you back to balance. They're actually your allies. Every misfortune and bad thing that has happened to you has been designed for you to bring you back to who you are. That thing that creates these experiences loves you so much, and that this is the only thing that it knows how to do to bring you back to who you are. The way through any challenge is to feel it fully. And most of us, and it's embedded in our cultural story, it's that if you feel anything that you don't want to feel, you shouldn't be feeling it. and you should do something or take something that will reduce feeling it. But it seems to be that the way that the psyche works is that in order to heal something, you have to feel it fully. And that one of the insights is there is a part of your psyche that is just the witness, that has not ever been sad, has not ever been angry, but has witnessed your anger, has never been wounded, but has witnessed your traumas. That part is invincible, and it is able to perceive anything. And that is the thing that if you learn how to connect to, has the potential to liberate you. But to be liberated, you're going to have to go through every feeling that you've ever incurred, that you've never felt, whatever it is. There's an intuitive knowing in your psyche about what you're able to hold. And whatever comes up, it's because your psyche believes that you're capable and able to hold it.